Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, welcome to our small informal event. Jacqueline and I are very pleased and happy that regardless of the beautiful weather, that you made it to meet Anil and Nuzat and meet each other here. I would first like to welcome Nuzat Sultan, who is making the video recording right now. And I'm very thankful to Nuzat that she made an effort bringing Anil. And Anil is the important artist of tonight. Anil and Nuzat are good friends already for many years. They are obviously originally from India, but live in Washington DC. And Anil, with his own work, has participated in several of the things we organized. One of them was Checkpoint Ilgen number 3. Most of you will know that Jacqueline and I irregularly organize this art salon for people to meet, and then we have also an exhibition attached to that. And Anil was also involved in one project, and so far we have organized 10 checkpoints. It's an ongoing dialogue situation. And I have to apologize that we unfortunately can't show more of Anil's great spiritual works here. You have to go to his museum to see a masterwork of Anil, which is continuous display there. We only have a very nice small work in the corner here next to the table. It's the only one so far in our own collection of Anil, and to compensate, we put catalogs of Anil in every of the rooms and catalogs of his last major show in the American University Museum in Washington. And also on the video in this next space, you can see on a loop a video recording of Anil's opening, and then you have an impression of his work and his work range, and also the very beautiful sculpture with the walking text, which is like a light newspaper with quotations from various religions. And Anil is one of the artists where you can like the work, I hope, when you look at it, but there's also very deep thinking behind the work, and you have to talk to the artist tonight to learn a little bit about it, or look at the catalogue. I really like to advise people, if you haven't seen it, to go and see his beautiful work at the museum, the Asia Art Museum in Dahlem. Most of you will know about the museum, but maybe you have not been there recently. It's extremely beautifully displayed in the India section of the museum, and I'm standing next to the person who's responsible for the installation, and he was co-responsible for the purchase, and he's also a good friend of Anil and an admirer of the work, and he will give you an introduction to Anil, and then Anil will say a few things, and then we informally mix again. And of course, like always on our events, please walk through the whole house, also to the way to the back, into the bedroom. Don't use the bed, but for the rest you can go anywhere. Okay, have fun, and I hope you enjoy the evening.
Okay. It's really a great pleasure introducing Anil and honoring his work here, and I'm particularly happy that I can do it here in this ambience with this wonderful Osts, Revri and Jacqueline, who always create a really inspiring atmosphere, I think, and so I think it's the best place to introduce Anil. Although we don't have, as you already said, its original work, and I thought it's kind of intentionally, because we want to tease you and really want you to come to Dahlem, because otherwise maybe not everybody of you would come to Dahlem. So, okay, so you will enjoy it there. I do not intend to go into details of Anil's career as an artist, because you can read his really impressive CV in one of the catalogs that are shown here, especially the beautiful catalog from his last big solo show at the Katzen Art Center in Washington, there's plenty of information in there. I will rather talk a little bit about how I got introduced to Anil's work and about what had inspired me and convinced me about his importance as an artist, which finally made us buying the work. I thank very much our director, Professor Klaus Rutenberg, who was very supportive in the process, and he's here with us tonight. Thank you, Mr. Rutenberg, for making it possible. And I'm also, of course, very grateful that there were some donors, because like often in museums, we had an amount of money to acquire work, but not the whole amount. So there were generous donors in the United States that participated and made it possible. Well, I met Anil during my first visit in Washington, D.C. Through my dear friends Ken and Joyce Robbins. Ken and Joyce are not collectors of contemporary art. They collect, among other things, early Indian miniature paintings. And we were talking about museums in DC one evening, and they showed me a small, very elegantly designed catalog, small size, of an Indian artist who was at that time exhibiting at the Corcoran Gallery. And I was quite impressed by this tasteful design and the size of the catalog, because myself I have a certain affinity to art of the book. It was done in a very special way, I thought. And because my background is Islamic, so there's this affinity. And in this catalog I saw Indian miniatures, which were really completely different from everything that I've ever seen before. They were somehow Indian, somehow not, abstract, partly figurative. I was quite impressed, and I expressed the desire to meet this artist. So my first studio visit at his studio was arranged, and I came to see him there. And what I saw were graphically composed miniatures on Indian paper, handmade Indian paper, yantras, religious formulas, spiritual texts from major religions, embedded into a kind of magical frame. The frame was composed by various levels of precious, finely designed borders, which recalled me very much pages of imperial Persian or Indian manuscripts, or even precious religious books like Quran pages. And similar frames and other miniatures gave space for a very strong central perspective, often leading towards a window into total darkness, into kind of infinity, into space. I was kind of overwhelmed by these small, incredibly detailed works on paper. The mathematic precision made me think of architectural plans. Again, the link with India, as architectural plans in Hinduism are also yantras. I was fascinated because I saw also a link to Islamic culture, again, where mathematics, architecture, and spirituality are closely related. Ground plans always have a deeper meaning when connected to sacred space. Only 2 days ago I knew that Anil, in his early days, was also trained as a draftsman for architecture. So my intuition was right. Everything now made sense to me. Little later, after my first studio visit, again, I came across Anil's work. And again, through American friends, actually. From them I heard about his shift into stronger abstraction and minimalism, using now big canvases instead of paper. So there was more than one good reason for another studio visit. My museum work brought me back to the United States for some exhibition, back to DC, and I took advantage of this opportunity to see Anil's new work. While unpacking together the huge canvases, huge compared to his earlier work, I had the chance to ask many more questions about his artistic life. And somehow I got the feeling that his development as an artist was matching my views, my ideas about him, about his concern of entering into a spiritual world through the meditative process of painting and through the subject. Because of this obvious interest in graphic and designing, Anil at the very beginning went into a kind of graphic career, like actually many artists, Waller for example, did. At the same time, he needed a different form of expressing himself and painted abstract landscapes in a somehow romantic, overworldly mood. Spiritual landscapes, I would call them. Colors were highly meaningful, like in late abstract expressionism. The miniatures aesthetically were a new paradigm, very different at first sight, but actually just another approach to the same themes I just mentioned. His huge canvases now seem to me a consequent evolution of everything Anil did earlier. They summarize and focus all the ideas, the meaning of sacred space, architecture, scriptures or words used as mantras, and finally the window towards the unknown, towards divinity. In a certain way I saw a connection to Lucio Fontana's Concetto Spaziale. Interestingly, also Fontana had an architectural engineering background, but whereas Fontana radically did cut the canvas to overcome two-dimensionality, reaching the space beyond, Anil is doing it through a real painful process of very precise and detailed drawing and painting, remaining faithful to the medium. Anil's canvases can be seen in line with the strong North American traditions of abstract expressionism and minimalism. Spontaneously, I found strong, that's a very personal opinion, I found strong parallels with Agnes Martin, whose work I always admired a lot. This might be one of the reasons why Anil's later work was very appealing to me, the work I was just seeing at my second studio visit. On the other hand, there is the Indian aspect in his spiritual and philosophical approach, as well as his concern for sophisticated technique and sensitivity for material. In Ram Darwaza number 9, the painting we acquired, the word Ram is transformed into an abstract and repeated pattern. Ram is the Sanskrit word for the seventh incarnation of Vishnu. The endless, painful repetition of dots, the reduced palette, as well as the use of glimmering gold or silver, are integrated into a grid, which forms its strong perspective. Everything is focused towards that dark nothingness, seen in the center of the painting and behind the grid. A very strong graphic perspective leads towards a dark space which has a weird force of gravity when looking at it. In Hinduism, there's the concept of darshan. The devotee gets united to its divinity through intense looking at the cult image, a kind of egoless interaction. When looking at Anil's Darwaza canvas, Darwaza means door, the viewer gets sucked into the darkness in the center of the painting. There's darkness, death, or nothingness, maybe total peace, maybe the release from the painful, never-ending circle of rebirth, if we think in concepts of Eastern religions. So, please come to Darling and try the experience. Thank you for your time.
Anil wants to say something.
Yeah.
Just a quick thank you to Raphael for very wonderful words. We should meet more often. Thank you also to Professor Ruppenberg and Mein Beckmann for making this purchase possible, and also to other members of the museum who I do believe supported the purchase. So thanks all of you. Thank you to Nusrat, my partner, who puts up with me while I'm doing the dots. And a very special thanks to Frey and Jacqueline, who have really been like family and opened their doors and been very helpful all these years. So thank you, and thank you to all of you who came here and supported us. Those who were here earlier at Frey Ilgin's book launch might remember the book, but since I wasn't here, I'd also like to make a special mention that he's just come out with a new book about art and artists, and treats the world of art in a very different way than it's been written before. I am honored also to be featured in the book, so I have vested interest. But no, truly, it is really an absolutely exceptional piece of work, which took him many, many years to do. So it's here, and kindly look at it, browse through it. If those of you would like to purchase it, could do so either here or on the net or whatever. And thanks again.